Megalodon, the baseline, the blueprint, the reason every ocean nightmare exists. When someone says prehistoric shark, this is the image your mind creates first. 60-foot body, serrated teeth the size of hands, and a bite force that rewrites physics. Megalodons don't chase, they don't circle, they annihilate. Born in warm coastal waters and open oceans, these creatures don't just hunt, they weaponize bite force itself, controlled, focused, relentless. Some bites crush ribs instantly, others sever spinal columns, and some target fins to immobilize before the kill. They generate up to 18 metric tons of bite force, enough to shatter whale bones like glass. Megalodons don't need elaborate strategy to kill. Mechanical advantage does the work for them. But size isn't just violence. Size is dominance. Size controls migration routes. It eliminates competition. It forces entire ecosystems to reorganize or disappear. That's why megalodons are always apex, always tyrants, always the final word. They rule because mass demands submission. It spreads fear. It claims resources. And once it appears, survival becomes probability. You don't outswim a megalodon. You don't hide from it. You either avoid its hunting grounds or you become nutrients. That's why every prehistoric ocean hierarchy starts here, because overwhelming bite force is power without nuance. But size has one weakness. It demands endless fuel, and eventually the prey base collapses. The next predator doesn't need overwhelming mass. It doesn't dominate through crushing force. It dominates through vision and explosive speed. And when it strikes, nothing escapes intact. Mosasaurus, the aquatic demon, the visual hunter, the predator that doesn't hesitate. While megalodons overwhelm through force, mosasaurs dominate through sight and burst speed. Their bodies are streamlined violence, jaws hinged for expansion, tails flattened for propulsion, eyes large and forward-facing for binocular vision. Mosasaurs don't patrol endlessly. They strike from below. They rise from clear surface waters where visibility is advantage, where light penetrates and targets become clear. Their power isn't raw mass. It's calculated acceleration. Megalodons crush bone. Mosasaurs track movement and strike before prey reacts. Jaws unhinge to consume prey whole. Bodies generate devastating bursts from depth. And when a mosasaur commits to attack from beneath, the angle removes all options. But their true strength is versatility. They hunt fish, they hunt turtles, they hunt sharks, they hunt other marine reptiles. Large eyes track fast-moving prey. Flexibility defeats specialized hunters. Opportunism outlasts perfection. You don't escape a mosasaur by being faster. You escape by never being visible. That's why mosasaurs symbolize adaptability, visual supremacy, and dominance through precision strikes. They are successful not because they are largest, but because they see opportunities first. Bite force may rule through power, but vision rules through accuracy. If bite force is power without nuance, visual hunting is power without wasted effort. But even precise hunters have a weakness. They need to surface for air, and depth becomes a liability. The next predator doesn't surface. It dominates through the same body plan in a different era. Pliosaurus, the Jurassic terror, the European nightmare, the predator that ruled late Jurassic seas. While mosasaurs struck in the Cretaceous, pliosaurs dominated millions of years earlier. Their bodies are compact devastation, skulls massive, necks abbreviated, jaws powered by muscles generating 15 metric tons of force. Pliosaurs don't hunt across vast ranges. They patrol European shelf seas and coastal zones, places where marine reptiles and large fish concentrate. You don't see them until commitment, a strike from optimal angle, bite targeting vitals, then stillness. Their bite isn't just powerful, it's precision devastation. Bones explode on contact, flesh compressed into rupture. Prey dies before understanding what happened. Speed doesn't help when attacks come from calculated positions. Size doesn't help when bite force targets structural weaknesses. Situational awareness is the only defense. and they specialize in exploiting distraction. Pliosaurs don't wage campaigns. They maximize lethality per encounter. But power hunting has a cost. They burn energy rapidly. They can't sustain extended activity. They are specialists thriving in specific time and place. Executioners optimized for late Jurassic European seas. If visual hunting is power without wasted effort, concentrated bite force is power without mercy. Yet even temporal dominance has a limitation. When eras end, specialists disappear with their ecosystems. The next predator doesn't rule Europe. It dominates the southern hemisphere millions of years later. Chronosaurus, the Cretaceous giant, the southern ruler, the predator separated by time and geography. While Pliosaurus dominated late Jurassic Europe, Chronosaurus claimed early Cretaceous Australia and South America. Their bodies follow the same blueprint: heads enormous, necks short, jaws built for catastrophic bite force. Chronosaurus doesn't hunt differently from Pliosaurus. It repeats successful design in new oceans. It lives in inland seas and coastal waters of the southern continents, where geography changes, but predation strategy remains constant. When they strike, physics operates identically. Their bite doesn't slice cleanly, it destroys completely. Prey doesn't escape once targeted. Struggling only accelerates the inevitable. Some victims die from trauma, others from blood loss, a few from shock alone. Chronosaurus doesn't need innovation. It needs proven mechanics in new territory. You can't avoid a predator perfected across epochs. You can't negotiate with evolutionary success stories. It succeeds because the pliosaur body plan works everywhere, everywhen. They represent temporal persistence of successful designs reappearing across millions of years, of nature repeating what functions. But repeated designs have limits. When environments shift globally, even successful blueprints fail. The next predator doesn't repeat vertebrate designs. It pioneers biomechanical innovation in ancient seas. Dunkleosteus, the armored shear, the Devonian titan, the predator that doesn't need teeth. While Chronosaurus uses proven designs, Dunkleosteus represents unique experimentation. Their bodies are evolutionary innovations, heads encased in bone plates, jaws equipped with self-sharpening bone blades, eyes protected behind natural armor. Dunkleosteus doesn't bite conventionally. It guillotines. They inhabit shallow Devonian seas and coastal zones, places where armored fish proliferated, where external defense became standard. Their jaws don't tear tissue, they section it. Bone blades concentrate force on minimal surface area. Some prey gets bisected despite protective plates. Others lose integrity before registering damage. You can't armor against concentrated shearing force. You can't be tougher than pressure physics. Evasion is the only strategy, and at roughly 13 feet, they don't need size when blade mechanics compensate. Dunkleosteus represents mechanical efficiency, of evolution solving predation through leverage and pressure concentration, of killing as applied physics. They are successful not because they generate massive total force, but because they focus force perfectly. But mechanical specialization has a flaw. When the Devonian ends and armored prey disappears, specialists lose relevance. The next predator doesn't rely on era-specific ecosystems. It extends reach into spaces jaws can't access. Cameroceras, the tentacled reach, the Ordovician giant, the predator that defies vertebrate logic. While Dunkleosteus dominates through jaw mechanics, Cameroceras dominates through invertebrate advantages. Their bodies break vertebrate conventions. Shells 20 to 25 feet long, providing buoyancy and protection. Tentacles extending even farther. Beaks hidden at the center processing. Cameroceras doesn't move with agility. It drifts. The massive shell prevents rapid acceleration. Jet propulsion works, but doesn't generate speed. They position themselves in Ordovician oceans where early vertebrates are still primitive and slow. When prey enters range, tentacles deploy faster than recognition. Their kill method isn't crushing or slicing, it's restraint and processing. Tentacles immobilize, redirect victims toward the beak. Beaks crack shells and segment soft tissue methodically. Nothing with external protection survives contact. Nothing soft escapes grip strength. You can't fight what operates outside vertebrate patterns. You can't predict something evolution designed through different kingdom. They represent alternative solutions of cephalopod intelligence applied to apex predation. But slow movement has limitations. When faster vertebrates evolve, stationary hunters lose advantage. Shell weight becomes liability, not asset. A reminder that apex predation has infinite historical expressions, and some disappeared hundreds of millions of years before the others on this list even evolved. The Great Auk, the penguin of the Northern Hemisphere. You thought big penguins only existed down at the South Pole, right? Wrong. The Great Auk was practically a penguin, just North Atlantic version. It didn't fly, had that elegant seabird manner, and swam very well, like the Michael Phelps of birds. It reached 85 centimeters in height and weighed about 5 kilograms. These birds lived in icy regions of Iceland, Greenland, Canada, and even part of Scotland. They formed enormous colonies on rocky islands and had no fear of humans. And that, unfortunately, was their downfall. For centuries, they were hunted for meat, for feathers which were used in pillows and clothes, and even for eggs which were considered a delicacy. Sailors killed hundreds of them at once because they were easy to capture. They didn't flee, didn't fly, just tried to swim. The saddest part, the last 2 great auks were killed on June 3, 1844, on the island of Elde in Iceland. A small group of men was hired by a collector to capture specimens. They found a couple with an egg, killed the 2 adults, and accidentally crushed the egg, and thus ended an entire species, 2 birds, 1 broken egg, and never again. But hold on tight because the list keeps getting more and more impressive. The dodo, the most famous icon of extinction. Man, the dodo is that type of animal you look at and think, seriously, did this really exist? Small, chubby, with a disproportionate beak, a friendly little face, and a vibe of someone who lived in peace without any worries. It lived on the islands of Mauritius, there in the Indian Ocean, just taking life easy. The problem? The dodo didn't fly, had never seen predators, and trusted everyone. It was like that friend who's too innocent for the real world. So when humans arrived with their ships in the late 16th century, they brought along dogs, pigs, rats, and monkeys. And the dodo simply wasn't prepared for this invasion. Since it had no natural fear, it didn't run away. The eggs remained on the ground, vulnerable. And in less than 100 years after the Europeans arrived, the dodo was completely extinct. The last reliable sighting was in 1662. And the saddest part, many people at the time didn't even care. Only later did they realize the symbol they had lost. A unique animal that would never return. Today, the dodo is the worldwide symbol of extinction caused by humans. The quagga, the zebra they forgot to finish. The quagga was like that zebra that someone started to paint and got tired halfway through. Seriously, look how crazy. The front part, head, neck, and part of the body was all striped, beautiful, typical of a zebra. The back part, rear and legs, was light brown, completely smooth without any design. It literally looked like 2 different animals glued in the middle and had a super calm behavior. It lived in herds in the plains of South Africa. During the 19th century, colonizers hunted quaggas both for meat and to protect pastures for domestic cattle. They were also captured for use as draft animals. The population rapidly decreased. The last wild quagga was seen around 1870, and the last in captivity died on August 12, 1883, at the Amsterdam Zoo. No one even recorded the moment. They only realized the gravity afterwards. Now comes the craziest part. Scientists started the Quagga project in 1987, trying to resurrect the species through selective breeding of zebras that have fewer stripes. And it's working. Several foals have already been born with a pattern increasingly similar to the original quagga. That's right, folks, Jurassic Park in real life. The Tasmanian tiger, the zebra wolf marsupial. Now things start to get really strange. The Tasmanian tiger, also called the Thylacine, looked like a crazy experiment of nature, like when you mix various animals in Photoshop, except this was real. Body of a wolf, head of a dog, zebra stripes on the rear, and all of this in a marsupial. It had an elegant and slender body, long and pointed ears, thin snout, and between 13 to 21 dark stripes on its back and tail. But you know the scariest part? It opened its mouth almost 120 degrees. It was like seeing a snake with legs. Absolutely disturbing. The Thylacine was the largest carnivorous marsupial predator of modern times, living mainly in Tasmania, but also on mainland Australia and New Guinea in ancient times. It hunted kangaroos, wallabies, and other smaller animals. But with the arrival of European colonizers in Tasmania, persecution began. They accused the animal of killing sheep, often without concrete proof, and the government even offered rewards for each Tasmanian tiger killed. The last known specimen died on September 7, 1936, at the Hobart Zoo. It is popularly known today as Benjamin and died of negligence. It was left outside on a cold night and died of exposure, officially extinct. But even today, rumors and supposed sightings in Tasmania continue. There are people who swear they've seen it. Is there hope? Who knows? But that's talk for another video. The elephant bird, the giant of Madagascar. Psychological preparation for this one. A bird that weighed up to 800 kilograms. Yes, you read that right. 800 kilograms. The elephant bird, Epiornis maximus, was simply the largest and heaviest bird that ever existed on Earth. It could reach 3 meters in height. It was so heavy that obviously it didn't fly and didn't run very fast, but it didn't need to either, because very few predators would have the courage or ability to attack an animal the size and weight of a small car. It was literally a bird the size of a small rhinoceros. They lived in Madagascar, that giant island in East Africa. And they were herbivores. They ate fruits, leaves, and seeds. In fact, they had a super important role in the ecosystem, spreading seeds of enormous trees across the island. And the eggs? Each egg was about 30 centimeters long and had a volume equivalent to 150 chicken eggs. Imagine making an omelet. It would feed an entire family for a week. Most impressive, they lived until about 1,000 years ago, which means modern humans coexisted with them when they arrived in Madagascar. There are records and local legends about these giants, but with hunting, habitat destruction, and egg collection, they were probably extinct in the 17th century. Can you imagine the scene of seeing one of these walking around? The Aurochs, the ox of your nightmares. Now imagine an ox. Multiply it by 3. Add bulging muscles, giant curved horns pointing forward, and an unfriendly face. There, you have an aurochs. This was the wild and colossal ancestor of all domestic cattle we see today. Males could reach 1.80 meters in height at the withers, the highest part of the back, and weigh more than 1,000 kilograms. It was practically a tank with horns. The aurochs roamed throughout Europe, Asia, and North Africa. It was so imposing and respected that it appeared in cave paintings in the Lascaux caves in France, made more than 17,000 years ago. Our ancestors had as much fear as admiration for this giant. For millennia, it was hunted for sport and meat. With the advance of agriculture, its habitat was being destroyed. Slowly, the population decreased until only a small herd remained in Poland. The last Aurochs, a female, died in 1627 in the Jaktorów forest in Poland. And look, just like the Quagga, scientists are trying to bring back the Aurochs through the Taurus project, using backbreeding of primitive cattle breeds that still carry characteristics of the wild ancestor. Science is getting bolder and bolder, huh? Don't forget the like. If you got this far, it's because you really enjoyed it. So leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss anything. There's every crazy story, scientific curiosity, and mystery coming that you won't believe. Until next time, folks, we're together.